Hello, my educator family. Let me welcome you to Strategy Sunday. We are in the month of superb September. Superb indeed, because we believe that our past should guide our future. And so we are in the second year of the pandemic, dealing with educational challenges. And so we are focusing on classroom management. Last week, we started with our feature, and we had with us Krishna Hilton, who shared with us how we can go about setting the tone for the first 100 days of school. This week, we have with us the lovely Batchelor Everin. She has been teaching for the past 18 years. She's a human ecologist, a certified mentor. She has a master's in TVET and workforce development. She is also recognized by the Jamaica Teaching Council and LASCO as being a teacher hero, having rose to the call by assisting those in the pandemic for the last school year. She's also a MOOB. Yes, she is a mother of only boys. And so this week, she'll be sharing with us some best practices as to how we can manage our online classroom. Welcome to our platform, Mrs. Batchelor Everin, and we look forward to an insightful treat with us.
Hello there, educators. Another virtual academic year is upon us. And once again, we're charged with the task of managing the online space as effectively as possible. For some teachers, it was already a daunting task, managing or trying to manage so many students and their behaviors in the physical space. What about the online space? Today, I will be sharing with you 9 tips on how you can manage the online classroom. The 9 tips I'll be sharing with you will surround rules and expectations, communication, engagement, rewards and consequences, the tech test, relationships, dress code, presence, and starting slowly. Now, just as how in the face-to-face scenario, there are certain rules, there are certain guidelines that would have been established in your classrooms, it's the same way that we will establish these in the online space. The only thing that we're going to do a little bit different is that we're just going to adjust things a little bit to make them more applicable to the online space. This should not be such a difficult task, but we know it will take a lot of creativity, probably a little bit more thinking than usual. So let's get into it. We start off with rules and expectations. Involve the students in making these rules. When they're a part of the rules, they are more likely to follow them and reinforce these as frequently as possible. You may also put the students in breakout rooms and ask them to come up with different rules or different expectations. And then they return to the main room and share these different expectations with their classmates, and they can feel a part of the whole process. They will also better appreciate these rules and expectations when they are established. Establish proper etiquette. Of course, we know there are some do's and some don'ts once we are in the virtual space. You can't reach physically to touch a child and say, boy, go to your seat, or, child, sit, or John, stop the talking, and so forth. But there are some things that we can do to keep them in check. Establish certain norms in your classroom. If we were in the physical space, for example, most mornings, if not all, you would be greeting your students with a very beautiful smile. Good morning, so-and-so, how are you? Or maybe a song would be playing in the classroom or something of that nature. Try to recreate that environment for your students. You can have a welcome message on display upon their entry. You could have a lovely song playing. Maybe you made a video for them. Do things like those to, set the tone for your classes for the year, for your homeroom, for your subject matter, whatever it may be. Communication is critical. Now, in the physical space, and if you notice, I'm making the comparison because some teachers may think that it is so difficult to create these things in the virtual space, but I'm looking at what we would do in the physical space and just showing how we can modify a little bit to meet the online space. So students are accustomed to talking with their teachers at probably any time. But in the virtual space, that cannot work. So there has to be some boundaries. We have to establish some boundaries. So you want to emphasize and establish with the students at what point in the lesson can you speak. Let them know that maybe at X point, you'll be allowed to share your thoughts, to ask a question, to respond to so and so. Show them where the chat feature is, how to raise a hand, and how to share whatever thoughts they have in mind. Of course, there's an online protocol for speaking that we want to establish and reinforce. So it's the raise hand feature. That's what I use. You may use something else. The raise hand feature, once you are acknowledged, then you are allowed to speak. You may also use small group meetings. Now, in a class of 30 students online, all the students are not going to talk. There are some students who will just remain quiet. Probably they're just not into the shouting battle and so forth. So you can divide your classes into smaller groups and have meetings with them, whether before the actual start of school, maybe during the lunch hour, to better get to know your students. So they'll feel more comfortable and they will, of course, treasure their moments spent with you. Engagement. Engagement is crucial. Now, if we were in the physical classroom, we'd probably be battling with, do we want engagement or order? Do we want engagement or we want to maintain certain standards? But in the virtual classroom, it's probably the complete opposite. Engagement is critical. Yes, we want to establish order, but think about a class where no one is speaking to you. You're asking the students, and we've seen lots of memes with these where the teacher is saying, what is so and so? Waiting for someone to answer, nobody's answering. So we want to ensure that our classes are engaging, because without the engagement, of course, we have lost our students. There is really no one to teach. You want to ensure that the students are encouraged to come back to the next class. Now, rewards and consequences. I will just be sharing with you a few tips that we can use. So of course, if we were in the physical space, you may have had a reward box. You probably would have had your face-to-face your real stickers that you would put in the students' books. We don't have that in the virtual space, but we can do virtual badges. We can do virtual stickers. Now, mainly for the primary school and infant teachers, high school teachers can do this too, or anyone, but we know that in the primary system, usually there's a constant lunch period. So what you can do, colleagues, is you may use or you may employ a virtual lunch date. So if a student does something well, if a student met expectations or exceeded expectations, did something good out of the ordinary, you may invite those students or that student to lunch with you, a virtual lunch date, or with their friends, that kind of a thing. Of course, we know that the students always want phone cards because they never usually have data. So that can also work. And I know a lot of you do that or have been doing that. Of course, you can also do some congratulatory videos, posters, notes, cards, and share these with the class. When students feel valued, they will more than likely love the class. They will always want to come back, and this will also be a motivating factor. And of course, if we have these established and they're working well, chances are we won't even need to put consequences in place. But of course, these are also important. Some teachers may put their students in the waiting room if they breach any of the established norms that we mentioned before. But we want to focus on the rewards. Yes. We continue. The tech test is crucial. There is no way you can go to class with technology without testing the technology, just as how you would not go to class to promote the use of a textbook that you have not proofread. Same principle applies. Test the technology, be comfortable with it, share it with a friend, and once you're comfortable, go right ahead and share it with your students. The students can tell when we are not comfortable, and so we don't want to leave that kind of impression on them. Of course, we make mistakes, and that's fine, but we want to ensure that we are as prepared as possible to meet the needs of our students. Establish relationships with their relatives, parents, grandparents. You never know. Remember, when we were face-to-face, parents could come by the school to have a one-on-one. How is my child doing? How is my granddaughter doing? My grandson, and so on. That is not necessarily the case now. So you want to have open lines of communication. There are some teachers who establish a WhatsApp group. There are some persons who have a newsletter that is published weekly, monthly. There are some persons who send out emails on a regular basis. You want to establish that kind of relationship with your parents, because of course the students know too that once there is this bond between school and home, it's less likely that we will be faced with some of the behavioral challenges that we tend to face, that some teachers tend to face. Teachers, dress code is crucial too. Establish a dress code for yourselves. Yes, you're at home. By the way, when we were face-to-face, you wouldn't dare leave home without your hair being combed. You wouldn't dare come to work in a merino or a spaghetti strap blouse, a camisole, a t-shirt. No, you wouldn't. So the same thing is expected in the virtual space. Get yourself nicely attired. We're not going to talk about the bottom half that no one is seeing, but we want to ensure that as best as possible, what we are putting out there represents our brand. Of course, we're not saying that you should be dressed in a three-piece suit and scarf. And, well, if that is your preference, then fine. But we want to ensure that we establish and we promote that level of professionalism that is expected of us as educators. You can talk about this image on your left. We're moving on, and we've seen a lot of memes with these. We've seen a lot of commercials, lots of videos when persons get up from their seats and we know what happens. But that's not what we're talking about now. But dressing the part is very important. And students look at this as well to know, what kind of teacher do I have? Oh, Miss the home, or Miss just wake up. Well, look, Miss here in a comb, that kind of a thing. We don't want our students to have those kind of impressions of us. We dress the part, we get up, we show up, and we do what we have to do, and we do it to the best of our abilities. Physical presence. Teachers, we can't be teaching and our cameras are off. And a lot of times that's the precedence that we set and the students follow. It's already bad that most of our students tend to not turn on their cameras for different reasons, and we really and truly can't force them. But we have to set the tone for our classes. I mean, you may not keep it on for the entire period, especially if you're showing a video to, conserve on the bandwidth and so on. But you want to start your class with a proper presence. Good morning, students. It's good to see you all. You call out some names, so-and-so. How are you today? You want them to see your face. You are ready. I'm ready, students. Let's go. And when you establish that presence, that kind of enthusiasm for learning, for knowledge, for coming to class on time, that makes a world of difference in your classroom. Start slowly. Pace yourself. Yes, there are tons and tons of apps out there. They will frustrate you. And of course, it's virtual, so you want to do everything that you can, and you pace yourself, because you will only frustrate yourself and in turn frustrate the students when you move too fast. And then maybe you don't understand the technology very well. They don't understand the technology very well. Their parents or guardians don't understand it very well. So we want to take some time to teach the children and their caregivers how to maneuver the different platforms that we're using. And once they're able to do that well, then we can pick up the pace gradually but we want to start slowly and then walk them through it. And trust me, oftentimes we end up learning some new things as well when we take our time and progress gradually. Colleagues, I wish for you all a very great year as we maneuver this online platform and as we try our very best to make the greatest impact on all our learners.
Mrs. Batchelor Evelyn, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing with us these best practices on how we can manage our online classroom. We trust educators that as we empower you, you will go forward and do likewise, empowering not only yourselves, but also your colleagues and also the students that you're given charge over. We trust that this will be an insightful one that as you go forward, you'll be able to utilize and to build your repertoire of skills as you deal with the online teaching and learning process. This is Strategic Educational Consultancy Services, and I am Carla Boswell-Lewis, where my only mission is to empower you, our educators. Walk good, take care, be safe, and have an awesome week ahead.